As the year was rapidly drawing to a close, the familiar weight of existential dread began creeping in, each day blending into the next week, month, season, and year, cementing into the past as I struggled to grasp back control over the coming future. To treat the symptoms of the human condition, I decided to try better making a jumper before the end of the year. Why a jumper, you ask? Because it's tangible, functional, and knitting would act as a straitjacket, keeping me from doom scrolling back into an existential crisis. But before we get down to business, let's assess whether this is even possible. This was the jumper I wanted to make. Can I read the pattern written in this Japanese magazine?
Nihongo ga wakarimasen.
Have I knit a jumper before? And how long was there left of this year? Decipher the foreign pattern, go buy the yarn, and then knit the bloody thing. Japanese knitting patterns are a bit like IKEA instruction sheets for building a garment. And like IKEA furniture building, there are consequences of taking creative liberties without fully comprehending the instructions. With most of the information presented as a diagram with a helpful legend at the back, here's what I figured out with a bit of common sense, a sprinkle of research on the web, and a dash of help from Google Translate. This jumper is constructed out of 4 main flat panels. Basically, you knit the back panel, and then the front, and then each of the 2 sleeves, and then sew them together. The start of the pattern also tells you which yarn to use, which brings us to the next step. Once you're at your local yarn store, choose your yarn, pay at the cashier, and respond when your coworker says, "Wow, I didn't know yarn would be so expensive." After finishing these steps successfully, I was ready to start knitting. I bought my yarn on December 18th. That gave me exactly 2 weeks to finish this project. I had planned to spend 3 days on each of the 4 panels, with 1 day for sewing everything together and adding all the finishing touches. I'd also set aside a day for any fuck-ups along the way, to which my mum wished me good luck. She's talking about the knitting, right? I started in the evening with the back panel. I cast on for the bottom band and knitted through the first few rows until with all the efforts from the first night, the bottom band was complete and I moved on to the fun bit. Into the 3rd day, I ran into a little hurdle: airport screening. I had a weekend trip to Brisbane planned, and since I was traveling light, my knitting project was packed in my carry-on. And because I'm a barely functioning human with half a brain, I never checked if anything I was carrying was a prohibited item. And unfortunately, I got stopped at the airport and one of my tools got confiscated. It turns out the Australian government thankfully allows knitting and crocheting needles onto planes, but my little sewing scissors had a pointed end and was taken away. Fortunately, with everything else passing through screening, I made it through to Brisbane, where I relaxed with my hobby for the whole weekend. By day 6, I was back home, and I'd only just finished the back panel. I was behind schedule by approximately 2 days, but I was holding on to hope that I might be a bit faster doing the front panel, since it was basically just a repeat of the back. But unfortunately, I wasn't progressing any faster, and for 1 evening's worth, I'd only just completed the bottom banding. At this point, I was about to lose my shit. At this point, I was getting a little anxious with the remaining time, and with all the Christmas lunches and dinners locked in, I was either eating, knitting, or shitting. By day 10, I had half the jumper done, but I was still way behind my initial time estimate. Considering half the work took 10 days, this left me with just 4 to finish the other half. Fucking psych. This was filmed 1:30 a.m. on the 31st of December. I was too busy finishing both sleeves in just 3 days to have any other recorded evidence. But regardless of my impressive speed, I was still cutting it close. On the morning of the remaining day, the 4 panels were thankfully ready to be sewn together. I retreated into prawn form, both in mind and body, until I was ready to cast off the final details. I mean, at this point this seems totally scripted, but here's video evidence of me casting off with literal minutes left of the year. And I'd finished. 5 minutes past midnight. I mean, I could have totally lied and said that I finished by the skin of my teeth, But regardless of when, I still finished doing a thing. So, what did I get out of this experience? A temporary fleeting sense of accomplishment, and a new coping mechanism.